in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, the British Council celebrates its 80th anniversary in Cyprus.
Next week, when we celebrate, an official celebration, I suppose, of our 80th anniversary, we will launch the British Council Digital Library in Cyprus for the first time.
We take Nicosia's mayor to task about the pollarding of trees.
If you're going to proceed with some austere cutting, I understand it should be on a particular period and not any. And the municipality, when we realized that this was happening so late in the season, we stopped it.
Bring you the highlights of the President of the European Commission's State of the Union address to the European Parliament.
And when it comes to the future of our fragile planet, the European Green Deal is our blueprint to make that transformation.
And politicians, academics and policymakers will gather next weekend for the Cyprus Forum.
We have partnered up with embassies, with top universities, like we have speakers from MIT, Oxford and others. So I think this will be something different.
The British Council in Cyprus was first inaugurated in 1940. That means that this year marks its 80th anniversary. Now, looking at their website, there were all sorts of things planned at the beginning of the year, but really what can be done now that we're under pandemic lockdowns. Joining us is the director of the British Council in Cyprus, Angela Hennelly. Angela, first of all, I guess we should say happy birthday, but can you go through some of the highlights, if you will, of the last 80 years? That's a long time to have had so many different areas that you've been involved in, particularly with regard to education and culture.
Oh, well, thank you for your birthday wishes. That's very kind. Yes, 80 years is a long time, but reading through the history books, reading through our archives and talking to various people who have worked with us, who have joined us over the years, we have a very, very rich history in Cyprus, starting in 1940 or even before that, when the British Council was awarding scholarships to teachers in Cyprus. Before we started in 1940, when we opened an institute and a library, a physical library with books. We had our first institute, I believe, in Cyprus, in Nicosia, and also in Larnaca, Kyrenia, and I think maybe Paphos was a little bit later. So we did a lot of work initially in the teacher training area. The Institute specialised in teaching English language for foreigners in Cyprus, and Cypriot citizens as well. We ran special courses for Polish refugees, which I found very enlightening when I was reading through the archives. So I think we're very good at listening to the needs of the local populace and trying within our means to embrace that. As time went on and through the history of the island, we moved buildings on several occasions, but we always managed to maintain our services, whether it was from a very small building, I think in Museum Street, where we had speakers visiting us from England on a variety of subjects. And there are some brilliant photographs I've found in our archives of people huddled together listening to people talk on a variety of issues. So we really used what was within our means, and I think we continue to do so to this day. And I thought your question about the lockdown is really, really interesting, because obviously we had an array of events planned with our anniversary in mind. But when the lockdown hit us in March, as with everybody, then we had to sit down and think how we make the most of it, how we make sure that everybody is able to work in a safe environment, but also to continue our celebration. And we've done, as you may have seen from our website, we've done a lot of things, maybe more so than before, online. We've launched several new ventures. For example, we have English score tutors, where you can sign up for a half-hour individual session with a tutor to determine your level of English and then receive advice on where to go from there. We continue to deliver the scholarships to Turkish Cypriot students in the north of the island, and we've continued to do so during lockdown. We've also launched Learning Time with Timmy, which is an online course for 2 to 6-year-olds who want to embark on learning their English through videos, through online resources. And last but not least, I mean, I'm delighted and I'm really genuinely excited that next week when we celebrate, the official celebration, I suppose, of our 80th anniversary, we will launch the British Council Digital Library in Cyprus for the first time. And we are the first country in Europe in the British Council, along with Spain, who also celebrate their 80th anniversary this year, to do so in Europe. So the Cypriot public, hopefully, along with our Spanish counterparts, will have access to a digital library with over 4,500 online books. There are films, there are newspapers, and this will all be our gift to our audience for this financial year. So there will be absolutely no cost involved. And this is a way of saying thank you to our audience who supported us during the lockdown and who will continue to support us. So I love that we began with a library and an institute in 1940, and now we are launching our digital library, which we would like to reach as many people as possible, either within the main cities or far beyond. So I'm very, very excited about that.
So you say there's no cost involved as a birthday gift. Does that mean that in the future people may have to subscribe or something like that?
Tomorrow is another day. At the moment, we are. This is part of our 80th anniversary, and we would like to make sure that everybody is aware that they are entitled to register for this on the website as from next Tuesday, and then we will see. We will measure the feedback, how popular it is, what people want more from the library. It's been very, very well received in the Middle East and North Africa region of the council. It's just been rolled out, I believe, in Burma, I think Dubai, Tunisia, Morocco. So as I say, we are the first countries along with Spain to roll it out here. So we'll be keeping a close eye on people's feedback, on what material is popular, etc., etc.
Now, you mentioned the archives, and I imagine there's an absolute wealth of stuff in there and photographs going back through those 80 years. I would have thought that if we hadn't been in the situation we're in, we might have expected a huge photo exhibition sort of detailing those history years. Might that come next year if things open up and people can physically go and stand in front of some of these photographs with their stories?
Well, funnily enough, I've just been in the basement before this interview looking at those archives with my colleague and looking at all those beautiful frames we have. And of course, we were about to welcome Prince Charles and his wife in March, where we were going to have our first exhibition then. So obviously, we want to share this with as many people as we can. So hopefully, we'll be able to have a space and an opportunity to share this with the public in the future.
So, people should go, I think, to britishcouncil.com.cy as of next week in order to have an access to that celebration library. And you mentioned all the different things. What about the education side of things? Because, again, that's been really difficult for students this year, hasn't it?
Yes, and we've done our very best to make sure that we have shared the possibilities of students, both exam candidates and English language students, to make sure that they maintain and improve their level of English as far as possible. So we have a wealth of online English learning materials, and as I say, we have some of the more established ones, like English Online. Everything can be found on our website. And we've also just, as I said earlier, launched the English Score Tutors, which is a way of helping people. I think it's €1 for an initial half-hour session with a tutor, just to get the feel of whether this is appropriate for you, to your learning style. and determine your needs and learning paths thereafter. So we're very much using what we have developed so far on the digital platforms to help people, but also we're also looking at new possibilities. There's a lot of R&D going on in the British Council, and I think even more so now to embrace the digital opportunity that the pandemic has presented to us all.
Yes, indeed it has. Well, once again, let me wish you a very happy 80th birthday, and we'll look forward possibly to some slightly delayed events in 2021. Angela Hennelly, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very, very much. It's been my pleasure.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
We've talked several times on the programme recently about our trees. There are lots of people trying to plant as many as possible because we know that they help us when it comes to climate change and, particularly in urban areas, keeping our climate cooler. Nicosia's Mayor Konstantinos Yorkagis joins us now because I want to ask him about the municipal's responsibility when it comes to trees. Konstantinos, I know that a lot of the projects you've done, you've put an emphasis on planting trees. And yet, when we look at the trees, established big trees in some of the areas, it seems that every year come, I don't know, May or June, suddenly you can't drive past them without seeing chaps with chainsaws literally chopping the top off and carting away the wood. Now, I think that it's not done properly. I've talked to a lot of people who do know about pruning trees, and there is a difference between just chopping the whole top off, even halfway down the trunk. And I wonder what training your gardeners have at the municipality, because it's something that a lot of people comment about on social media. We want the shade, we love the green trees in our streets, and it looks awful when they're literally just felled almost halfway down the trunk.
Yeah, I think the correct way would be to prune them and not to chop them so drastically. I agree with that, and that's something that we discussed with the people responsible for the particular incident that you probably mentioned of a month ago after the lockdown. And I'm sure that it won't happen again.
What sort of training, though, when you are hiring people for the gardens department?
It's not a matter of training. It's a matter of I don't think it's a matter of training. There are various schools of thought on the matter, and also various schools of thought on the when you should be pruning or cutting more austerely. Yes. But I feel that if you're going to proceed with some austere cutting, I understand it should be on a particular period and not any. And the municipality, when we realized that this was happening so late in the season, we stopped it.
Can I ask you what happens to the wood that is cut?
It depends on the agreement who cuts it. Sometimes the wood is given to the municipality, and we provide it to various people that need it. Or if it's a contractor that takes over the job, it could be in the contract that instead of payment they take the wood, or instead of X, Y. It depends on the agreement.
That, to me, is one of the problems, because if you know you're going to get the wood, you're going to cut more, so you get more.
No, it has nothing to do with that. Because in the agreement, it's specifically the job would be defined. It's not a bonus scheme. Cut as many wood as you want in order to make money. No, the austere cutting was intended to be done much earlier in the season, and the contractor proceeded to do it very late in the season. And when we realized we stopped it.
You won't be using him again.
If it was his mistake, we won't.
Well, whose mistake was it if he did it at the wrong time of year?
I think it was very complicated with the lockdown.
But this is not just because of the lockdown. There have been a lot of problems all over the place with people just doing what they like with our trees, basically. Now, my understanding from the forestry department is that all trees above a certain girth are protected. So you can't cut them down without a licence?
We're not cutting down. Now we're talking about pruning or austere...
pollarding. But back to the pruning, severe pruning...
Severe, thank you.
is
Let's call it that.
really done very often at the wrong time of year. And you have a gardens department.
The particular case was done in the wrong time of year.
Yeah, but you have a gardens department. Do they do any of this work from that department, or do they do the other things?
It was the garden. It was the municipal department that stopped it. The mistake that happened, it was our department that stopped it.
So why don't they do it themselves if they know how to do it?
Because it's better to go with a contractor. It's much, much better.
Why?
Economically, it's much better. They have the right equipment, the experience, everything.
OK, well, there we are. That's the Nicosia Mayor, Konstantinos Yorkagis, talking there about an issue we've covered several weeks now on the programme, and that is preserving our greenery and our trees.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
On September the 16th, Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, delivered her first annual State of the Union address to the members of the European Parliament in Brussels. She presented her priorities for the year ahead and outlined her vision for how the European Union could evolve in the future. From this perspective, she advocated a Europe emerging stronger from the coronavirus pandemic and paving the way for what she termed a new vitality. She also presented the actions of the European Commission in order to give Europe the means to become green, digital and more resilient. Here are just a few of the very short highlights of her speech.
People want to move out of this corona world, out of this fragility, out of this uncertainty. They are ready for change, and they are ready to move on. And this is the moment for Europe to lead the way from this fragility towards a new vitality. This is Next Generation EU. This is our opportunity to make change happen by design and not by disaster or by diktat from others in the world. To emerge stronger by creating opportunities for the world of tomorrow and not just building contingencies for the world of yesterday. We have everything we need to make this happen. We have the vision, we have a plan, we have the investment. We need to build a stronger European health union, and we need to strengthen our crisis preparedness and management of cross-border health issues. This will show Europeans that our union is there to protect them all. There is no more urgent need for acceleration than when it comes to the future of our fragile planet. The European Green Deal is our blueprint to make that transformation. At the heart of it is our mission to become the first climate-neutral continent in 2050. The European Commission is proposing to increase the 2030 targets for emission reduction to at least 55%. The 2030 target is ambitious, it's achievable, and it is beneficial for Europe. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was no funding, there was no global framework for a COVID-19 vaccine. There was just the rush to be the first one to get one. And this was the moment when the European Union stepped up to lead the global response. This is Europe's unmatched convening power we can be so proud of. Without any doubt, there's a clear need for Europe to take clear positions and quick actions on global affairs.
Extracts from the State of the Union address to the members of the European Parliament by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, delivered on the 16th of September.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Next weekend in Nicosia, there's the Cyprus Forum, and joining us to tell us all about it on this week's programme is Nicolas Kyriakidis, who is the head of the steering committee. So, Nicolas, a little bit first, if you will, about the history of the Cyprus Forum and why it came into being. What's it hoping to do?
Actually, the Cyprus Forum is a new independent non-for-profit conference which is organized by Oxygono and the Delphi Economic Forum. Oxygono is an NGO which was founded in Cyprus in 2015, and its purpose is to organize events and other initiatives to bring together policymakers, experts, academics, business people, and active citizens to promote constructive dialogue and therefore promote meaningful reform. So the Oxygono has partnered up with the Delphi Economic Forum, which is an economic forum taking place in Greece since 5 years ago, a quite successful one. And we decided to organize the Cyprus Forum beginning this October 2020, which marks the 60 years of the declaration of the independence of the Republic of Cyprus. Our goal is to bring together policymakers, experts, and civic society, and other initiatives or research centers, so as to exert positive pressure towards meaningful reforms.
So do you have particular reforms in mind? I mean, I've looked at your list of speakers. There's a lot of politicians in there, a lot of the same people who appear at the Economists Forum every year, and they usually say much the same thing year in, year out. How can you transpose these sort of events into meaningful policy decisions?
It's a good question. We will try to do two things differently than other fora, which we of course respect and usually attend as well. So the first thing is that our main goal is to produce ideas, and our panels have very provocative topics which demand direct answers and suggestions by all speakers. So in all panels, we do have the decision makers, as you said, which also appear in other fora, but they're surrounded, I would say, by other discussants, experts, and we want to, initiate the discussion in some issues where public dialogue is not very common. For example, gender equality in politics, or the future of the national health system and the future of public hospitals, or the role of the Cypriot diaspora. So we want to bring these matters in the public dialogue, and the format of the panels is very specific. So we have time limits. We have 2 minutes per answer. Every chair would be responsible to ask 3 or 4 questions on the topic, very direct and specific questions, asking for suggestions. And we hope that we'll have these either commitments by politicians or suggestions by experts, which we could direct towards decision-making centers with various ways, such as media. And the second thing we want to do differently is that, so the first thing was that we want to produce ideas which are very, very relevant to reform in various areas in Cyprus. The second thing is that we are completely independent. We respect every area in Cyprus, political parties, all media, all universities. We try to promote research centers, as I said, or other initiatives which are asking for reform, but their voice is not being adequately heard. We have partnered up with embassies, with top universities, like we have speakers from MIT, Oxford, and others. So I think this will be something different.
Who is this aimed at? Who is coming into the audience? What are they going to get out of it?
Yes, target audience is the business world, academia, obviously people interested in politics, policymakers, and citizens. So in 90% of discussions every day, we hear people asking for change. Also, a lot of politicians want to do things, want to bring change. But we cannot speak about inclusive growth because we don't have this cooperation between the different players. So our target audience is the categories I mentioned, and our goal is to bring everyone together to discuss and work together and have a common vision for Cyprus.
So where can people find out more?
At our website, cyprusforum.cy, as well as our social media.
Facebook, it's Cyprus Forum, I think, isn't it? And you've got all the details up there so people can see who's going to be speaking and how they can perhaps take part themselves. What's the cost for people who want to join you?
So, this year, because of COVID-19, we faced a lot of difficulties on whether to host a physical event or a hybrid event. Then we decided to host a physical event, which is permitted by the current measures of the government. And we are allowed to host around 350 people at the venue, which is the Nicosia Municipal Theatre. Also, the event will be live streamed in our social media, and the speakers outside Cyprus will connect via live link. So anyone interested can enter our website and click on Apply to Attend. And if there are seats, they will get an invitation. So this year, because of the situation, the event will be for free.
That's good news for everybody who wants to have their say. Will you be able to take questions and comments from people who are streaming you?
This is the idea. This is the plan. We will have a meeting with all the chairs of the 10 panels 2-3 days before the event, and we'll explain to them that they'll have a tablet where they will have access to Slido, which is an application where the audience can send their questions. And upon their discretion, chairs will ask the panelists interesting questions by the audience.
All right, well, I'm sure it's all on the website, cyprusforum.cy.
Yes, correct.
Thank you very much indeed for telling us all about it. That's happening next weekend. Look them up on Facebook, go to their website, and our thanks to Nicolas Kyriakidis for telling us all about it. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.